Hi, it's Catherine Bird here, and I wanted to actually finish a video, my last video. So my last video was about hiring a business coach as a healer or a spiritual or therapeutic practitioner. These are my people. These are the people that I mentor and train. And I am that, and I've been that for a long time. And I have hired different business coaches and done a lot of different business programs for different reasons. And I probably am a little bit different than a lot of healers in that I very much enjoy and embrace a lot of my entrepreneurial path. Some of it, of course, I'm like, oh, I could do without that. But a lot of it is very interesting to me. And I like being in it. I like being a part of it. I've done a lot of different things, working in person, online retreats, ceremonies, one-on-one work, group work, courses, canned courses, live courses, all kinds of things that I've done over the years. And so in my last video, if you haven't seen that yet, I went into some of my personal experiences of when I found that business coaches were either good or bad for me personally, and what my journey was for that, so that you could have a little bit more maybe idea of what some of the possibilities are, maybe some of the things you might experience or come up against. But I had a client when I was filming, right when I was getting that video completed. So I didn't get deeper into some of the other things I wanted to talk about, which are some of the things that you can do, notice, ask when you are interviewing and having a meeting with a business coach, someone who is going to mentor you, and how you can approach that in a way that might help you feel more solid in hiring someone. A lot of times, business coaches especially charge a lot of money, and it can be one of the biggest investments that we make in our business. And it can be terrifying. It can be exciting. It can be the best decision we ever made. It can also be a really hard, bad decision, one that we struggle with, one that we even regret. And I've been on both ends of that spectrum. And so I wanted to just bring in some pieces that I hope will help you when you're interviewing someone. So notice that I'm saying that you're interviewing them. So a lot of times when you get onto a call with a coach, it's almost as though they're interviewing you, which they are. If you are a coach or a healer, you are actually interviewing the person that you are bringing on as a client. I'm interviewing someone when I'm having a consult with them. Yes, I am discovering about them to see if I can help them, number one, and how I would help them. And if there's some little things that I can immediately give to them that's going to support their life. But I'm also very much tuning in and interviewing them to see if they're a good fit to work with me, if we're going to vibe, if they're going to show up and do the work, if they're at the place in their life, in their career, in their ability to have stability and structure to support transformation, or to take their business to the next level if they have the education and training to back it up. All of these pieces, right? I'm tuning in about a lot of different things because when I work with someone, I want it to be a great fit. And I don't know that all people really are paying attention to that as much as some people are really trying to get the sale. And they're assuming that if you're reaching out, then you're probably a good fit, right? Because maybe you have explored them and so you know who they are. So number one, that's a great thing to do. And maybe you are interested in my work. And so that's why you're here. You're exploring my content. And I know that I talk to a lot of people and they show up for a call and they're already certain they want to work with me because they've listened to my YouTube videos, they've watched the podcast, they've checked out my website and looked at all my programs, and they see what I have going on. And that is a great thing to do. I know that I've hired people and haven't really checked them out to the fullest extent. Probably would have been a better idea for some people for me to expose myself to more of their content and to really sit with some different things that they were saying instead of just what they were selling. So a sales page that someone puts out can really speak to you because it's oftentimes, especially for successful coaches, they're hiring a marketing person, or they're really great at sales and marketing copy. So they're great at poking your pain points, at exploiting the problems and the issues that you have in your life and making it very clear that they have the answer and they have to solve your problem. And this is a strategy. It's a strategy that we use as practitioners in business and doing this work to help people understand that we can help them and that we understand them. And it's an effective strategy, and it can be used in a way that is making you think that this is the only thing that you could possibly do, or it's what you really need, and you might really need it and you might not. So I'd say, pay attention to that. So one of the pieces is that it's really helpful to not make a decision from a ungrounded, very fearful, anxious space. So when you're making a decision to hire someone, you might be coming from that pain point, right? They might have poked that pain point, and that pain point is there. You're struggling. Maybe you're struggling to get your business off the ground or pay your bills or advance, or you don't know why your stuff isn't working. And it's been, months or years, you feel like you've been struggling, or you're just in a very dark place right this moment. And so you're activated. Your nervous system is activated. Perhaps you're in a state of fight or flight or freeze or fawn even. And especially if you're a fawner, you might sign up for something that you didn't intend to sign up for that day, right? Because your system is wired so that it feels like if you do this thing and make this join in this union with this person who has a lot of power and influence and prestige, that you will be safe. Your nervous system is trying to help you be safe. So it might be pushing you in that direction. So number one, if your nervous system is a little bit freaked out, if your nervous system is challenged, then it's important that you have the tools to work with that, to have breath work, to have a movement practice, to do some qigong, to do some yoga, bring your breath in, long, slow exhales longer than inhales to activate the parasympathetic nervous system, to remind yourself that no matter what you do, no matter what you choose, you are safe and you're going to be okay. This can be really helpful because sometimes our trauma is very much triggered in this space. I mean, think about it. This is our safety. This is our ability to care for ourselves, to pay our rent, to take care of our kids, to eat. And so the way that we're making money can be very triggering. And you're talking about your soul's purpose, your greatest desire in the world to be of service. So it can be very triggering, and to pay attention to when it is triggering you, to notice changes in your nervous system where it feels like it's getting activated. And of course, you could be getting excited and you want to be able to follow your excitement. But if your nervous system is completely shutting down, or you are feeling like you have to make a decision in order to be safe, or you're just freaking out a little bit, do what you need to do to regulate yourself. And if you notice that that's coming up in your call with someone, you should be able to acknowledge that, speak to it if you can, And they should be able to respond to that in a helpful and healthy way. If they can't respond to that in a healthy and helpful way, do you really want to work with that person? Because your nervous system and your trauma is going to come up in your coaching and healing with someone. And a business coach is doing healing work, because you're healing your ancestral wounds, your lineages, your childhood wounds, your stuff around abundance, your intergenerational trauma around poverty and lack, fear, all of these things about being a magical person, being a witch, being someone who's doing shamanic work in the world. If that's your path, can be very triggering to start to bring that out into the world, get paid more money for it, and to get seen as that. So you want to know that this person is going to be able to work with you. And there's nothing wrong with wherever you're at this time. You don't want to feel pressured to join something immediately if you're not ready. And it's a very much taught strategy of coaches to try to get people to sign up right away, because we know that if people go away, they are actually likely not to sign up, because the fear comes on, the doubt, all of the mind comes up, and circumstances. They talk to their friend, they talk to their partner, and they're like, that's stupid. Why would you do that? That's crazy. I would never do that, because there's somebody who has a regular job. And so it's taught that we should get them to sign up right away, sign up as soon as possible. So give them $1,000 discount to sign up today, to sign up on this call. On this call, you're going to get a $2,000 discount. You know, that's huge. And a lot of times when you're on that call, you're like, oh my God, that's $1,000, $2,000 discount. Like, that makes the difference between me being able to do this or not in my mind. So I'll just sign up, or I feel like I have to sign up, or how could I join something at $1,000 more because I'm waiting 2 days or a week, right? So be aware that that's something that could happen on a consultation, a strategy call, a soul session, whatever people are calling these things these days, right? Because they come up with cute names to get you on a call, and they're going to help you hopefully with something, but they're also going to sell you something. So be aware that that's something they're going to do. And know going into it, Am I really thinking about signing up here today? And if I needed to put something big on a credit card today, what's my preparedness for that? You know, if they offer me a big discount today, do I feel prepared enough based on information I've received so far from this person, plus this one call, that I'm ready to make an investment, right? Prepare yourself if you're ready to make an investment or not. Like, I'm not ready to make an investment. Even if they offer me a big discount today, right this minute, I'm going to wait. For me, I've had trouble with this in the past, and I have just simply not worked with somebody because this was their offer. Because what I have found for myself is that my guides come in a lot when I'm at night. And so if I am very clear, this is what I'm asking about, this is what I need to know, this is what I'm looking at, should I move forward in this direction or not? Generally, I need to go to sleep, or I need to go lay in the tub. I need to do something very relaxing in my system. And then I will often get the answer then. And it wakes me up, shoots me awake, and is like, yes, do that. No, don't do that. This is what you need to do. So I know that that's how I receive guidance. And so I want to follow that. So the more that you can get clear on how you receive guidance, the better. So again, you're interviewing them, right? So you want to make sure that this is a good fit. They want to make sure that it's a good fit for them, but you want to make sure it's a good fit for you. So here's some other things that you can be an inquiry around. What are their values? Like, what do they really care about in their life and in the world? Like, what is their, like, if it's not clear in their copy and in the things that they're saying, what do they really, really care about in the world, right? Because people are very different and what they value is very different. A lot of teachers will, I'll just say teachers because I'm a teacher, but a lot of teachers will they really value people learning their system and holding their system as the upper level and doing it their way. And for me, I more value people's authentic expression and getting to know who they are as a healer, as a practitioner, even as an entrepreneur, and discovering that together and helping to nurture that. So that is more important to me than selling someone a system that I feel will work for everybody, because systems don't work for everybody. I'm sorry, they just don't. Even amazing systems of practices that we do from different lineages, they're not always all the best. Like, every practice is not the best practice for every person at every time. That's the truth. And every entrepreneurial system, every funnel, every webinar, like, one thing is there's not a one size fits all in this thing, because you are a different person. Like, there are strategies and there are systems and there are things that are very helpful to learn, but is this person trying to teach you their system and that's it? And that's all they're going to give you. You really want to know that, because if their system isn't going to work for you, then what? What happens then? Which is a really great thing to ask. Like, what happens then? What happens if after a month or 2 months, I realize that this isn't for me, this doesn't work for me, I don't like it, or it's not resonating with me? Is this a strategy system that this is the only thing you have to give me? Like, I can't change course if I don't want to do exactly the template that you're giving me or the system. Can you help me with my business in other ways? Are there other systems that you're able to support me with? And this goes for anybody. We're often looking at these programs that might be 6 months or a year. What happens if after 6 months of a year-long program, I really feel this isn't for me? Go ahead and ask, because most of the time they're going to expect you to continue to pay. And I have paid for a year-long program because I committed to it, even though I really didn't get anything out of it. So just ask. And most of the time they will tell you, you are responsible for this money. Okay, great. So if I'm responsible for this money, and what if I'm not getting any value? Just ask, and see what their question, what their answer is and how they relate to that question. What's their energy around it? What's their response to it? And what happens if you have an emergency, right? What happens if you have a major illness, you get pregnant, maybe you have a regular job and you lose that job, or your partner loses their job, or whatever, your parent gets very sick. Like, all of these things are possibilities. Do they have any space for you to drop out of the program for a period of time and come back the next year, or to just drop out of the program and stop paying them? Are they going to send you to collections? Like, what is the deal with an emergency? Kind of good to know, because life is very uncertain, right? Even during all of COVID, there were people who were in programs who had retreats and things set up who financially were kind of screwed over by people who wouldn't refund their money. So what happens? Well, what happens if you sign up for something and it doesn't happen? A lot of times you will be told that you cannot get a refund. for sure. And that if you're in a program and something happens, you continue to be responsible for your payments. Just be aware that that's what you're signing up for. And be like, okay, so that's what I'm signing up for, and I'm prepared for that. I know that that's the case. I have met people who've been really harmed in a coaching container because the person, the people, they needed all the money up front. And so there were no payment plans. They needed all the money up front. And then they ended up questioning the coach's behavior and teachings, and they got kicked out of the program. No money back. Just, we're going to take your many, many, many thousands of dollars, and we're going to badmouth you on the internet and kick you out of all of our programs and systems, and you don't get anything. So ask around, ask people, find people who've worked with those people. Ask. Let's see. So going back a little bit to, I made some notes here because there's so many things to ask, but going back a little bit to the values. So what are your values? What do you care about in the world? What are you trying to change in the world? They should have a great answer to this, because especially if they're a business coach, this is so part of their like initial, their niche, their vision. Like, this is part of doing the work of being an entrepreneur, is to have a really great answer for this. What are their give backs? What are the communities that they're supporting? What are the nonprofits? What are the things that they care about that they're giving money to, or their time, or their influence toward? This is one that I don't think people ever ask, but what are their personal practices? This gets really helpful, especially if you're looking to hire a business coach and you're a spiritual practitioner, and you know that your business has to hold space for your physical, spiritual, energetic practices, meaning that what you want to build is going to, I'm just saying, I have so much paint on my hand. So what you're going to build is going to hold the container for your personal practices. And what are these personal practices? Like, do they understand the lifestyle that you need in order to do the kind of work that you do? And do they understand the work that you do? Like, really ask them. Be like, have you ever been to a medicine ceremony? Have you ever been to a shamanic practitioner? Do you know anything about trauma therapy? Like, whatever it is that is your is your specialty, your modalities, do they actually know anything about that? Like, really? Like, do they sort of know it because they just know some people? Like, really, what's their experience? And can they truly relate to it? Some people look like they can relate to this stuff, but they don't. It can be really helpful to ask if they're connected to or following a specific spiritual lineage, and how does that affect their work or their belief systems, or the way that they're going to approach your work, or their beliefs about your work, or if you resonate with that. For example, there are some people who are, you wouldn't know it up front necessarily until you dig into their work more deeply, but they might be very Christian, and you might not be a Christian, and Christianity might be triggering to you because maybe you grew up and that's just not your vibe, and that's okay. And they might be sort of upfront about it, but not enough that you're really aware of it. Like, I followed people sometimes for a while on Instagram or whatever, and then all of a sudden you see them in their posts somewhere, and it's like just deep in there, they're talking about God and Jesus and things in a way that you're like, oh, okay, that's their belief system that is anchoring in their work. And that's great. And it could be the same thing if you're very Christian and someone is not Christian, and maybe that's triggering for you, and maybe you don't want to work with that person, and that's fine too. But and this could be for everything. It's not just like Christianity is kind of a main, I mean, it is a main pivot point, let's face it, but it could be anything that maybe you're not that connected to a certain spiritual tradition and lineage, and they are, and their viewpoints are going to be changed by that. So for example, I wouldn't necessarily choose to work with someone who was a very dogmatic Christian person as my teacher coach, because they might not actually want to help me to advance my shamanic work, because they might see it as something that is evil, right? So I would maybe want to ask them about that. And there are plenty of Christians who are probably okay with that and get it, but there are others who don't. And I see them talk about it in this way. And in that same token, I talked to someone once, or I had someone who came to a program once who up front for quite a while, all they talked about was they were a psychiatrist, I believed, and that they wanted to help people get off medicines, and they wanted to bring holistic and essential oils and meditation and all these things. And it was very like holistic and spiritual. But after knowing this person for a while, then finally it came up that what they were really anchoring their practice into was a very fundamentalist Christianity, which was basically anti-gay, anti-LGBTQ, like just anti-sex before marriage, that their belief was that these things were causing mental health issues. And personally, I would not resonate with that as a treatment for a practitioner to go to for me. There are people who are into that. And my advice for this person was that they really needed to be very upfront with people, because they could traumatize people if they got and paid a bunch of money and got into a system and then were like, oh, this system is not for me. This system is rejecting me. So this is the thing. What is this person's container like? Is this person's container safe for you and for people that you care about? Because is it safe for people of color? Is it safe for LGBTQ people? Is it safe for people who are operating in a different belief system and understanding of the world? And that might be because that's you and you are that person, and you want to feel safe in the containers that you're in, as you should. Or it might just be that you are an ally and you want to be in containers where people are accepting, loving, kind, and you know that if somebody in a group program on a Facebook group or whatever starts saying stuff that's racist or misogynistic or anti-gay or whatever, that they're going to get called out and be held accountable and not be supported by the facilitator. So you want to know that you're going to be in a safe container, and you deserve to be in a safe container. Everybody deserves to be in a safe container. And what is this person's beliefs and understandings on that? What are their ethics? What do they stand for in their business? And I mean, this is something that I teach in my business course and with my clients, is that you have to have an ethos. You have to have an ethical guide for your business. Who do you stand with? What are you willing to put up with? What are you not willing to put up with? And what are you declaring as important tenets in your work, as especially related to trauma, to diversity, to inclusion, to scholarships, to service to underserved communities, et cetera, et cetera. So these are really important, and for you to understand about people, because especially I think with business coaches, because we see them and we're like, oh, okay, so they're putting on this social media picture of a lot of affluence, abundance, ease, beauty, a lot of times, and expertise. And so we really want that. We want all of those things in our life. We want to be that person. And so we sign up because we're chasing the image. We're chasing the thing that they're presenting to us. And so feel free to dig deeper than that, because they're not going to necessarily come out on their social media page, although I have seen people do it and be like, yeah, I'm a bigot. And I don't really care about people, and I'm really just about the money, and I'm not going to care about you if something bad happens to you. And sometimes we have to learn really tough lessons about people, because that's just who they are. And they have wealth and prestige and expertise and all of these things, but they're maybe not the kind of person that you want to give your money to, or you want to be in a container with, because they're not going to be able to hold people accountable, or to help people with trauma when it comes up, or to support people of diverse backgrounds and belief systems. And I feel that this is really important. And maybe I'm a different kind of person because I am most passionate about people's diversity, about people's ability to tune into their own ancestral lineages, to their own broken and forgotten lineages, and to reawaken them through themselves and to be that in the world. That is so important to me. People's authentic personal prayer, authentic personal practices inspired by the fundamentals of practice, of energy work, of shamanic work, of ceremony and ritual work, of all of these things that, I know all these basics, I know all these tools and strategies in order to build something that's very personal and relative for each person in each cycle of their life as the days go by, changing, growing, and evolving as people transform. Personally, I believe that your business as an entrepreneur, as a healer, has to be the same way. It's not just this cookie cutter thing that you can get a template and be like, okay, now my business is running. Just like you can't just take somebody's personal practice that they teach you and just do it forever and ever, every single day, and always get a result. Like eventually you're going to have to change something. And that change is coming inspired through your own needs of transformation, your own need of your personal development. And your business is here to do the same thing for you, to inspire that change, transformation, and development of you as a practitioner, as a human being, as a spirit. So I hope that this has been helpful, and that you use this if you're interviewing a business coach, or if you're interviewing any kind of coach or any kind of teacher, that you're paying attention to all of these different layers. I think especially because there is so much facade these days. There's so much of the identity on social media and the pieces that we are projecting out into the world. And we are distracted. We're distracted by beauty. We're distracted by ease. We're distracted by money. We're distracted by our own issues and pain in relationship to those things. And so we can forget that these are people, and that you want to make the right choice for you. I also wanted to mention, this is another piece I wanted to mention. I will shut this down because I know this has been long, but also how do you learn is really important. How do you take in information? What is the best way for you to interact with a program or a person? Because sometimes you might really want to work with someone and maybe they have an offering, they have something that their program or something, and maybe that program is the best thing for you, but maybe actually doing a half day in-person thing, you might get more out of that than doing a program, or doing somewhat, paying maybe a little bit more, probably a lot more, to do some one-on-one work with them, maybe over a shorter period of time than the year-long program that they're originally selling you. And maybe that's the best thing for you. Personally, for me, I found that I need one-on-one work. I need to have a conversation with someone. Sometimes I can't just do it over Facebook. I don't want to do it over Facebook. It disturbs my mind to try to figure something out in that way with comments over days at a time. I need to have a conversation with somebody and say, this is what I'm working on. This is what my problems are. This is what I would like to achieve. Let's talk about it. And I also have found, for me, a year-long program isn't necessarily the best thing for me. I actually work best more in kind of a little bit of a smaller, maybe 6 months or less. And so I'm working and then I'm able to go off and implement, and then I can come back if I want to. And that has seemed to be work well for me, or doing a shorter program that's like a program, right? That I'm doing the work online. But how do you learn? If you're not an auditory learner and all of their stuff is mostly just like listening to stuff, is that going to really challenge you? And you need to read stuff in order to integrate it. Do they have transcripts, right? Or opposite of that, right? Is it all, is there visual information? And you need more of that, right? You need more of whatever it is. It's okay to understand the way that you learn. Are you neurodivergent? Do you have sort of idiosyncrasies in the way that your mind integrates information? And what are those things? And how does that work for you? Does somebody, they only have 2-hour videos, 2-hour calls, right? And you're like, well, that's really challenging for me because of the way my mind works. I need more like 15-minute videos. And so what does the program structure look like that you're in? Great to know. All right. So I'm sure this has given you a ton to think about. And I will put some links in the text to my work and my sites and my business course, because I do work with practitioners on building their business from a different perspective, more from the perspective of a practitioner, of someone who's been doing this for a long time and has had success and is always challenging and changing and growing. And because I saw so many of my clients getting bad business advice and spending a lot of money on things that weren't working, and I've done the same. So I hope that you have a beautiful day and that this was helpful. And I'd love to hear about your experiences or your ahas in the comments.